video of the regular ones. Right when I started, get a phone call. Sorry for that. Okay, that is one off schedule, so to say. Just something about football betting and so on, professional betting. And what I would like to point out or state at one point, maybe thanks to all the subscribers anyway, and which is of course kind of flattering in that sense that you somehow liked what I had to say or what I tried to show you here and maybe teach you, you could tell. But also it is kind of an obligation you inherit with it. I mean myself, I inherited. Because I think, oh, people, some of them may be waiting for something new to come and to happen. But I'm very happy to maybe fulfill those hopes, or and I could do this all day long, right? I'm not, you know, it's not worrying me at all. It's rather the opposite. I'm looking forward to it. It is just a matter of time I have for that, and time I am ready to spend for that, and and this is of course a matter of other obligations I got. I could do this all day long and talk about football, talk about betting, and talk about more or less the world and everything in life. I appreciate. I mean, I like this philosophy, if you want so, and I say to my children sometimes, there should be just one subject at school, and this should be philosophy. You will encounter everything that's relevant for living. And when my daughter right now, she tells me she's gonna write a clausura, what do you say, examine something tomorrow in physics, or in, what is it called? Physics? What is physical education? That's sports. I don't know, but the science physics. And I studied this actually, but I mean, I say, well, there are so many ways in life, and you don't need to really understand this. Just try to get a good grade or something like that, and then you can forget it again. I mean, you can get into subjects, of course, a lot deeper if you want to, and also make a living of it, or make a business with it, or whatever it is. But this should be up to you, and not what the teachers or the whole school systems tells you. This is important. You have to know Louis XIV. This is for me the most ridiculous example. I mean, if you don't know Louis XIV, forget the whole history or the whole life. You have to know this. They all learn it. And it's ridiculous. Well, anyway, philosophy. I'm getting into this already. The subscribers and them waiting for something to happen. Okay. And it's kind of an obligation, but I'm looking forward to it. I will happily do plenty of videos about the questions. That's what I wanted to mention. There was one request, more or less, you could say, do this X goals comparison in English. I will do this later. Thanks for the question, if this guy is listening, and I will do this later. There's something else I would like to do today, actually. And somehow this is how the whole betting more or less started, right? You can also talk about the history of betting, and I'm not talking about facts or so, or when the first bookmakers and so on, but rather the thing you encounter in real life. And you see here maybe already example, I bet. At some point maybe it started that people started saying, well, I bet this is gonna happen, right? Something's gonna happen. And well, what it usually means is I'm pretty certain, I'm pretty sure this is gonna happen, right? And now I'm ready to bet it. What this guy would mean, and that's also where in Germany they would say, he who bets, he wants to cheat you somehow, right? This is, betting is like cheating. or cheating, you want to steal someone's money. Because when you are pretty certain this is going to happen, you say, I bet. Then you usually think, well, this is clearly more than 50%. It's 90%. So if someone bets against it, you would expect him, well, I bet 10 euro it's going to happen. The other one says, no, I bet 10 euro against it. So you pick up 10 euro for a 90% chance or so, which is not a fair deal, or it's a very pleasant one to do, but you wouldn't get this. Or you wouldn't find someone. So it's pretty ridiculous, but I would ask you well, I know I would, ask you maybe to ask yourself, when did you hear this term? And many people say that, maybe not in English language, I don't know. In Germany they say, ich wette, I bet it's going to happen. And they usually talk about chances which are way above 50%. Now you need someone you can challenge with that, because just to say I bet and in the end it's going to happen, then you say, I told you I would have bet on it and I would have won the money. Yeah, but it's a matter of what price would you be getting and what would you like to risk for it, right? And then already the questions would be arising. And how certain are you really about it? And is the price meaningless to you, or how important is the price you are going to get? And this is where the bookmaker more or less comes into play. That's somewhere where people started. Maybe they hear people saying, I bet. And they say, okay, I bet against it, but I give you a price. I give you a price that maybe I consider fair, or maybe I consider even favorable for myself. And the bookmaker, he's in this position that he says, well, you can bet anything, also things that I would like myself to happen. Maybe if an English bookmaker, then he would say, okay, England, I would keep my fingers crossed, right, for England to win the title, but still I pay you a price. So, and maybe if he's in England and he says, okay, 8.0 for England to win the World Cup, and other people are coming because, okay, they like England, they support England, they bet on England, and he still pays 8.0. So now he's, well, it breaks his heart, because he would like to see England win the World Cup, but he also has to pay out all the money. So what do you wish? So like this, you are selling your soul in some sense, which many people do. I mean, he would say, I have to calm down my emotions and hope for other things to happen. So my life is different now. I pay you a price, and from then on, I am whatever gives me money. And this is, of course, considered to be mean. It is mean in some sense, lower. You don't care for whatever happens in the world. If people say, I bet the atom bomb is going to drop somewhere, you say, okay, I bet against it. You could be happy with that. But if he says, I bet against it to happen, then you would say from now on, I wish it's going to happen. I don't know. It's just an extreme example. But pitch invasions, I don't know what people could bet on. But from then on, if they say they are not going to happen, I bet against it. So I hope this is going to happen. And now we could also talk a bit. It is just an introduction, more or less. But if you want to, I mean, you can also say, well, it is a bit funny to think about these things. And now, what I would like to, or what the way I put it always, I mean, the bookmaker always has to make sure he can go on with his business at least. I mean, what good would be if he would, well, he would be bankrupt at some point because you picked up all his money and then you can't bet anymore. Okay, you can go and look for someone else, but of course he has to keep his business running. So he has to make sure he does not pay out too much, and so he has to. If you want to bet, okay, but you have to accept some kind of restrictions in the price you're getting. So if you say I bet, and maybe 1.20 would be the fair price for that, then he would pay you 1.15, because he has to make sure. I mean, I can't pay 1.20, but there's one part in it which is I have to keep my business running, so I have to take a little charge for myself, but also it's an kind of because he cannot be so certain that this price is right, so he has to reduce it even a bit more to make sure, well, this is the maximum I could pay, and then I'm gonna pay even a bit less than that. Okay, that's bookmaker's business, but the other business, totally actually the other way around, which is really funny, and people do not seem to notice until maybe they hear the way I look at it or I describe it, and then they somehow have to accept that view that any insurance you make is a bet. And here, these bets are so funny because people somehow bet on their bad luck. So they bet on something really bad to happen. If you want to have a fire insurance, you bet there is going to be fire in my house, right? And if you bet this, at the same time you wish it is not going to happen. So all the people that bet on England to win the World Cup, I mean, I say England now, I could say Germany as well, but all those people, they would very much love to see this happen. They still be maybe committed to that somehow because they say, well, I should actually bet Germany, but I have to bet England because I want this to happen. And Germany is a good price, but I can't take Germany because I hate them. So I have to take England. So this is somehow being committed, but it's in an insurance bet. So when you make a bet, I mean, you make an insurance. You insure your car, you insure your house, whatever it is, you insure your life. Then you make an insurance. And the problem about these bets, they are like any other bet too, because you bet on something to happen and you get a price. The problem here is you wish this would not happen to you. And in doing so, sadly I have to say, anyone doing it, in being so silly, you want this not to happen. The bookmaker, he says, well, I could give this guy 100 to 1, but I'm only giving him 20 to 1 because he's going to do this still going to do this because he wishes it not to happen. So he doesn't even look at the price. Okay, yeah, okay. Most important, I'm insured against fire. So no matter what price you pay me, okay, we pay you 100,000 euro if it's going to happen. Okay, fine. I hope it's not going to happen. And so he takes a silly price. I mean, this is just, what I say here, it's not really profound, or what would the word be? I mean, I cannot really prove this. And I know people working at the insurance companies, and they have to make some decent calculations about it and some probabilities. But I'm very, very sure that the margins they take are a lot bigger than any bookmaker in sports betting could do. Because, I don't know, how can I get this sunlight away? Because this is going to happen now these days again. They can take a much bigger margin, and that's why all those insurance houses, buildings, they are so monuments. I don't know how you call this, but they are very exclusive, very nice houses they got, because all the people make very, very bad and silly bets, I have to say. I made some insurances myself too. For example, life insurance for my children in case. Okay. And you still spare some money, or what is it called? I don't know all these terms. But anyway, and of course the car you have to insure, you can't do otherwise. It's an obligatory bet you have to make, although it's a silly one. 2, and so on. And mm, all I want to say, it's very comparable to those to this betting. The difference is here, you don't want this to happen, or people insuring themselves, they hope it's not going to happen. And if you have this fraud, what is it called? When they well, there are lots of movies about this subject. The one I love most is what's the name again? The Big White with Robin Williams. Or what is it? Robbie or Robin? I don't know. Robin Williams. But anyway, you should watch this one, The Big White. But this is about insurance fraud. I don't know a better word. Of course, in this case, you want this bad thing to happen, but you try to somehow, make it happen, or make an insurance beforehand when you know you get a good price because you know it's gonna happen. I make this happen. But in the insurance companies, they are pretty safely guarding against that as well. Okay, well, different subject. I know, and if you tuned off already, sorry for that. Keeping you, whatever. What did I write down here? Price, insurance, yeah. I made some notes here. Well, okay, let's get into this example, because this is more or less what I actually wanted to show you. And this is, referring to this perfect betting game example that I showed you already, and or that I'm doing on a weekly basis, more or less. Well, let me keep here, stay here somewhere. But I would like to make it a very, very small and simple example. And why did I take Peter Pim and Billy Ball? Because this was my first English book at school, and when I was 10 years old, yeah, and we started learning English. Peter Pim and Billy Ball. No, okay. Anyway, so now Peter Pim is gonna say, "Well, I bet this is gonna happen." Okay, now what would the next question be? Well, I bet this is gonna happen too. Billy Ball says, "Okay, it's gonna happen too." So what can we do? No bet. Well, how much would you like to bet? This is more or less what Billy Ball should ask him back. How much would you like to bet? Okay, this is not a bad question, because this question gives the answer to how this perfect betting game is being played, if you want to do it perfectly. Because now he has to make a decision. Well, I bet this is gonna happen. Yeah, how much do you bet? Okay, so I bet 80. I bet 80. I mean, what is it? Okay, you can say, how much do you bet? Okay, I bet 80. And how much do you bet? Well, I bet 90. Okay, so rather Peter Pim would bet against it, because he's not ready to bet as much as Billy Ball wants to bet, right? So why would he say 80 or the other one 90? I mean, we can also say there's a budget underlying. Now it's ringing at my door. Sorry. Habe ich diesen für dich, oder? Dann mach bitte auf, kümmere dich. So we could say 80% of my money. Or we could say 80% of a certain budget, because I don't want to lose my house or all my money. I bet this is gonna, if you bet, so bet your life. No, well, okay, I'm not gonna bet my life. I know it's gonna happen, but I just bet a budget. On a budget. 80% of a budget. This makes a lot of sense. I mean, to me, I hope you can follow this. How much do you bet? I bet 80% of a given budget. How much do you bet? I know as soon as he says, I bet, he doesn't know that he's in the next second he's been forced to bet an amount or something like that. But it would make a lot of sense if you were forced to. I mean, I bet 10 euro. Okay, do you bet 10 euro too? No, I'm not going to bet 10 euro because this is even money and I think this is going to happen too. So not 10 euro against 10 euro. I bet a certain amount of a budget. And now we're there already. I mean, very close to. Because, I mean, you can say, Peter Pim can also reply, well, yeah, I know it's going to happen, but I'm not going to bet all my money or all my budget. Instead, just a certain amount of it. How much do you bet? He could ask in reply, right? And then Billy Ball could be the first one to be asked. Now, as soon as he's ready, he set up his size of a bet. Then Peter could still reply to this because he said, well, now he said 90. Now I can say 95 because I'm even more certain than he is. I mean, if he wants to adapt it to this, or he wants to adjust it, or he wants to be the second one to talk or to decide, right? Then he can still adjust it to this. Or they both take a sheet of paper and they say, okay, write down your percentage of the budget you're ready to bet. I write down mine. And now they can compare these two. This is actually what the perfect betting game. What you see here now, if the one is ready to bet 80 euro of his budget and the other one is ready to bet 90% of his budget and the budget is 100 euro, then they are bet together 170 euro. And this is how the perfect betting game is set up. Now, there is another chance left for this not to happen. So how much are you ready to bet for this not to happen? You also have to take a decision. Well, this is decided already. As soon as you decided how much you bet for the chance on it's going to happen, you know already how much you bet for it not to happen, on it for not to happen. And the same for the other one. So they bet 170 euro on the one side and 30 euro on the other side. So, but how is this, there's a perfect word for that, which I just had in my mind, but now I forgot it. How is this settled after the event has taken place, right? Now the game is 2-0 after minute 65. Hungary play Saudi Arabia. I mean, just a random football game. Now it's 2-0 after 60. Now they say, okay, let's get some excitement. I bet Hungary are gonna win. Well, the easiest thing of things to happen. I mean, just a silly example. But still, from now on, they got this excitement. Now, okay, now they decided how much of the budget they did bet on the chance they think is going to happen or not going to happen. Now, this is a distribution of their budget. Now they decided, okay, we're going to bet this amount of money because this is the whole share of their, the whole thing of their budget. Now they have to, this is 200, this is the whole budget they got. The one bets this, the other one bets this, of his budget on this chance, this on the other chance. So now all we have to do is settle the bet. I mean, just the question, how much do you bet on this? This gives you already, it is just what it is. It is, you have to say that and then you're ready, the betting system. Now, okay, those 80% turn into a payout of 125. It's the reciprocal of this value. And this is the reciprocal of this. You see, this is only fair. And if Peter Pim is ready to bet 80% of his budget, it's more or less that he said, it is what he says. It is an 80% chance for this to happen. So if he says it's an 80% chance for this to happen, then the payout would be 1.25, the fair trade payout. So if you would pay this out in case it's going to happen, he's not going to make a mistake, right? It's the true price. He's paying out the price that is given for this. And Billy Ball has to pay out this amount. But the other chance, no, this is getting expensive for Billy Ball, because if he's wrong with that, or if he's right, I mean, he has to pay it out no matter what. But now we can still see. Anyway, I mean, it's the perfect betting game explained on a bit simpler example, and call it a tutorial perfect betting game, because I try to explain this in the weekly videos again and again, and so I would like you to watch this and understand this, and then you understand the whole concept. It's more or less, I bet. From then on, you can't say I bet. Say your percentage of the budget you are ready to bet on this. One thing I wanted to show you, if one side should say 100% here, right? Then what is going to happen? I mean, you can't do that, actually. Because this is really your life. You bet against it, right? If you say 100%, you can't go wrong. Because there's no way you can pay out this, right? There's no way, because division by zero, this is, it's unlimited. What is it? Infinite. It's more than all you got. I mean, it's it's your life. It's gone. You can't do that, right? You can't do that because you couldn't pay it out. So I wouldn't. I mean, as soon as you say 100%, for this I could give you one good example, because I was trying to remember, because this is what really happened. Because if you bet on something that has taken place already, so everything that can happen, everything that lies in the future, right, is only happening with a certain percentage, right? And everything that's in the past, so everything in the future is something between 0 and 1. It's something between 0 and 1, between 0% and 100%. It's more than 0, it's less than 100, right? And anything that's in the past is either 0, it happened, it did not happen, or it's 1. So anything, any event, any occurrence you can describe with words, that make sense, right? If you say Easter and Christmas on one day, you can say, well, this is impossible. So it's a 0%. It's the impossible occurrence. But anything you can describe with words, and this is, I mean, this is philosophy, and this is exactly where mathematics and philosophy meet. If I would say it's 4-0 after 90 minutes, and there's still 1 minute injury time, and then I say, well, this is a certain win. So this is a 100%. So now I can bet. Now I can write down those 100%. And all of a sudden, there's a pitch invasion. There's a rocket hitting right? They are all dead. I don't know, something really weird gonna happen. Then what about it? Did the game end now? Maybe it will be the board will decide. Okay, the result stands because we want to go on with the season, although all the players are dead. I don't know. I mean, it's really mad things you can still invent that are going to happen. But still, it would not be a bookmaker that has to pay out this bet, right? If the game is interrupted. There had been very strange things happening in the past, and I remember this one story which was also bet fraud. when Ladbrokes, they decided they are going to pay out if the second half is kicked off, right? And then there was a game that was 2-0, Derby County, something, Stoke, something like that. I don't want to say the real names, I don't know. But then it was 2-0 at some point, or 2-1, I think, and all of a sudden the floodlights went out. So, and they were pretty sure, and they couldn't prove it and so on, but they were, because it happened twice, right? And then they were very sure they had to pay out the bets. They were big bets, and they were very sure that that those well, this was manipulated, right? But for example, so you can't be sure even to reach the final whistle, right? But if the bookmaker says I'm going to pay it out, if its second half is kicked off, so maybe it's his fault or whatever it is, right? You look at it. But anyway, there are so many things. There was a pitch invasion in Panathinaikos against Paris Saint-Germain in injury time. There was Ajax Amsterdam when a goalkeeper was hit by what was it called? Well, he was hit. The game had to be stopped, and this was the losing side were the home side, and the Ajax keeper was injured, and they couldn't the game couldn't go on, and so it was 2-0 Ajax, I think it was 2-0 Paris Saint-Germain. Such things happening when those interruptions of a game, and they don't count the results, right? So it's still in the future, and still it's not a 100%. If you say, well, I do not count those events, and I do not have to pay it out, then this is where philosophy starts again, because if you say, okay, in terms of this football game, and for the other side to turn this game around, this is impossible. It's 4-0, they can't score four goals in a minute. There's still this possibility, this feint of a referee being, and he simply lets game go on. All of a sudden they all agree, and then he gives 4 penalties or whatever, and it's 4-4 all of a sudden, right? And then I don't know how it's evaluated then, but you could still somehow invent those possibilities for weird things to happen even within the game, although it is not well, virtually not possible. Still those things can happen. I mean, I have so many such examples when there was this referee, the Scottish referee Mokrem, that was really Saudi Arabia. No, it was South Korea, Bolivia, in World Cup 1994. You can still look it up in the internet. But he just couldn't stop the play, because they just, either side tried to score a goal. It was 0-0, and 0-0 didn't help any of them. So they both went forward with all players, and whenever there was the attack was stopped, they instantly went the other way up the pitch. So either side they badly wanted to score, and he just couldn't stop the game. There was no chance, because always there was action all over. Mokrem was his name, I think. Mokrem. Anyway, Mokrem. Referee Mokrem. He 8 minutes injury time, and then he was barred forever after this game. But I would say, in his favor, he just couldn't stop the play. There was nothing, no bad intentions. He just couldn't stop the play. And other things, when for example, Thomas Helmer from Bayern Munich scored this phantom goal, they said when the ball wasn't in, they still counted it. It was 2-1 Bayern. The game was stopped. I don't know what the bookmakers did, but after the game, the result was cancelled. They had to replay the game when Bayern won 4-0. But this was because the ball wasn't in. They said, well, we can't count it a win. So many such examples when strange things are happening. Those 8 minutes injury time are just saying, because nowadays they raise this, they didn't do it then. They say 3 minutes and you can't do a lot more. but then he could still prolong it. Anyway, there are so many things that are possible to happen, and so you can't say it's 100%. You can say in the terms of this. There was also this. Let me tell you some more of such examples. When Leeds United played Stuttgart, and they lost the first leg 4-1. No, they lost the first leg 3-0 in Stuttgart, and they won the return match 4-1. But Stuttgart brought on one non-European player too many. So they were playing with 3 non-European players, which they weren't allowed. So the result was 4-1, which meant Stuttgart were qualified, because 3-0 in the first leg at home, 4-1 away. They won on away goals rule, but there was an extra player on the pitch. They weren't allowed to Simonic. No, what was his name? Simonic. No, I can't remember. Zivojnovic. I can't remember. But they were not allowed to do that. So in some sense, they also, well, by disobeying the rules, they got this small edge they shouldn't have had, right? So they were right to protest against that and say this result can't stand. What they did, though, was declaring this game a 3-0 win, which was ridiculous, the most ridiculous decision, but there are many such things happening. It was so they had to play another game, because 3-0 first leg, 3-0 second leg, and so they had to play a decider, which went to Leeds then. I think they played somewhere. Where did they play? No, I don't know. But anyway, but this was also like, yeah, the final whistle was blown, so everyone who went with Stuttgart would have said, well, pay out my bet. I bet for them to qualify for the next round. And then, the bookmaker, maybe they paid it out, I don't know, or they waited for an hour, I don't know. Does the result stand? When does it stand? When are you sure this counts? Maybe it was 5 minutes after the game, maybe it was 2 hours, I don't know. At least Stuttgart were for a while, they were in the next round, but in the next moment they were out again, because they should have maybe been eliminated from the contest. Could have been one decision. Or they had to play a replay and a third decisive game. What I would like to show you here, maybe just to give you one, the computer wouldn't be able to even display this, because this is too big. And let's see, now you see, if you say 99.97, this is what is going to happen, right? There's a possible payout of 66,000. So, I mean, if you are this certain, you can, you should even set up this probability, because you say, well, in so many cases I'm going to win this small amount of money, which is given here. In so many cases I'm going to win this, that I will take into account to pay out once this, if it's going to happen, in 3 out of 1,000 times, right? And the other 997 times I collect this. Here you see what kind of equities this would mean. But let's rather reset this to 90%. Because there's still this equity problem. And this equity problem, I don't know how well you know and understand this term, but I can of course explain it. But as soon as you have the probabilities right, you are certain to have an edge. You have the positive equity, because this is the win you can expect to happen. You know, in a single instance, you will either pay out or cash the money. But in the long run, if those were the probabilities, and we would do this again and again, you could here talk about one die with 10 sides or something like that, right? You can set up some given chances that you can reproduce again and again. If this guy was right, then he would come up with this equity in the end, then he would, in the long run, win this amount of money, and the other one would win a little less or have a lower equity. As you saw here, the bigger you make this one chance, I mean, we could make it 99%, then you see already, because not just because they are a bit apart here, that this equity rises, but for the other one, it doesn't rise this much because he's so certain to pick up this small amount of money in so many cases, which the other one accepts, and he has to pay out a lot more every time it happens, right? But he has to get something in return for that, right? So this equity, and if he's right, which is now if he's right, this one is very wrong. So he loses a lot, but only in rare cases. So this equity needs some more patience to convert itself, so to say. But you get some reward for that. Anyway, if it's right, it's right. But you can't gain much, as shown here, by raising this probability further, right? If it's right, you have to do it. But still, you don't raise your equity immensely, while you do when you expose yourself to, well, a small chance standing against you, which you have to, you have to pay out the big chance many times. So you have to put up with paying out this 4 times until you first time pick up this. But you pay out quite a bit more compared to those 90% if they were right. Anyway, as long as it's right, you have to do it. But here Peter Pim would just pay out 23.61 euro every time the, from his point of view, also much more likely event is gonna happen. Anyway, I'll leave you with this. I think, and I hope you still liked it, you enjoyed it. Leave a like, leave a comment. What do you think of it? And consider it a tutorial about this. Thanks a lot. Share, like, subscribe. No. View, share, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much.